Alright, so we're finally here. Time to carve this plate. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our knife tool. So this is the flatted blade that has a sharp corner on it. Um, we're going to use this to basically knife an outline around our outline. So I'm starting here with just an introductory or precision carving element. This knife tool, by outlining what I'm going to cut, helps me make sure that my gouges don't slip. So it creates a border or a parameter that blocks me from slipping into my image itself. I have already carved a lot of this outline, but you want to go around the whole thing. Knifing the plate is only going to help you with your accuracy. If you don't have this knife tool or the additional knife tool gouge that's provided in the lino cutters, you could also use an X-Acto knife. We're going to use that a little bit later. So right now you will see that I am showing you how deep you need to go to carve this plate, which is not deep at all. Pretty much if your fingernail can catch on it, then it's deep enough. Again, going around the outside and going around the inside, all of this is going to help me have a better carving experience and prevent me from slipping into the more important imagery. Now we can get to carving. This is a V-gouge, and what I want to do is make sure that the area I'm choosing is usually a little simple for the first time. So I'm choosing the big open area at the bottom. Now, when we hold our linoleum cutter, we need to place it in our hand properly. What you do is you'll place the bulb or rounded end of your linoleum cutter in the middle of your palm. Then, taking your pointer finger and your thumb, you'll wrap around the chuck. This sends the power of the carving through your entire arm, making your fingers less tired. Then you can use your left hand or non-dominant hand to direct the blade, keeping in mind to keep it away from the sharp end. Lastly, you'll need to change your plate to be complemented by the direction you're carving. I mentioned before that chatter happens. But before we talk about chatter, I'll talk about a secondary thing. This plate is being a little difficult to carve. It is resisting me just a little bit. For me, this means that either my tools are dull or my plate is cold. What I can do is warm it up with my own body heat by holding it in my hands, or if you have a heat gun, which I do, I can also use that. So I am going to grab my heat gun, warm up the plate, and I'm not trying to cook the plate, I'm just trying to give it a little bit more than room temperature. So a couple of passes will warm that up. Now that my plate's a little bit warmer, again, it's not hot, it should carve a lot easier. If you're carving in the winter, keep that in mind. If you don't have a heat gun, use your own body heat or use a blow dryer. And you can see it's already become much easier to carve. I will continue carving and switching through the blades, finding ones that work for me. But the most important thing for me right now is the idea of chatter. So chatter are the little ridges in between the carving marks that you make. I've carved one line and I'll carve a next line, but unless I carve it all flat completely, the linoleum will pick up the ridges in between. While printing, those ridges that I've carved away might also be inked up and print on my paper. This unintended marks or unintended to be inked marks will sometimes show up in your print, and we call those things chatter. We expect it in Linoleum, we expect it in woodcut, and so the easiest thing I can recommend is that you accept that it exists. But if you're a person who wants to get rid of them completely, you'll have to come up with a secondary solution, such as using mylar or acetate to block out these areas that you want to hide. But for me, chatter is part of Linoleum and relief printing, so it's not that big of a deal. I'm being very careful and carving in a direction that works for me, and the directionality of this composition is a burger sitting on a horizontal ground. I'm carving horizontally. I'm being careful not to carve towards myself and rotating the plate when I need to get a better angle. Instead of rotating or twisting the linoleum cutter back towards my own body, I'm pushing outwards and changing the plate accordingly. This is a proper carving technique. Now I need to get a little bit closer to the important imagery, the burger, the shadow. So I'm going to switch to my X-Acto blade and start to knife these outlines one more time. Again, this is going to help with precision as I'm really getting close to the more intricate details of this composition. I would recommend it to all of you all to keep your knife tool and your X-Acto blade close. Again, knifing out the outline and the areas that are important to you will help you succeed without your plate slipping. As I'm getting more intricate, some of these things are becoming too thin to see. So every once in a while, I'll pick up my plate and flex it so I can see exactly where that line was. That way I can follow it up with another line or continue carving where I see fit. Alright, so I'm coming to the part where I am almost done with this plate. The composition is almost complete. So the next thing I want to do after I carve these parts is to go around the whole outer edge one more time using one of my smaller gouges. What this does is just cleans up the edge to make sure that you got everything smooth and exactly where you want it to be. The other thing you can consider if you're carving out a large part like this is simply cut it with scissors. It's a pretty massive area, and if you cut this whole thing with scissors, you would save yourself some time in carving. I'll make another video carving the important imagery on the inside, but for now, this one is done.